The final episode of From Season 3 has finally been released, and ooh, there's definitely a lot of crazy shit happening in this episode.
Those things that come out at night, it promised them that they would live forever.
Smiley being the demon in her belly this entire time was definitely one of the biggest what the fuck moments in this entire show. But they actually did it. They actually brought him back to life, and it's actually insane.
I did try to warn you. Your wife shouldn't have dug that hole, Jim.
Your wife shouldn't be digging that hole, Jim.
And now we know it was the man in yellow who was the voice talking to Jim Matthews in season 1, because he literally said that he warned Jim Matthews about Tabitha digging that hole in the basement. So it was definitely him that was on the radio way back in season 1. Everything happening here is just wild as hell. Like, the entity's plan actually worked out flawlessly. He completely played Elgin like a fiddle, and he actually succeeded in breaking Randall's resolve. And even with Boyd, he was so close to finally being broken by the entity. And because we saw the man in yellow knew about Tabitha digging the hole, this means he can also see everything in the town. And remember, he also mentioned Jade playing the violin beautifully, so he can definitely see everything that's happening here. And because we see him saying that none of this had to happen, and that knowledge comes with a cost, this definitely speaks to what he was trying to do when he was talking to Jim Matthews on the radio. It means that the voice on the radio was saying all of that because he didn't want them to get more information about Fromland and how everything works. And the yellow man definitely did not want Jim and everybody else seeing those cave drawings that are down in the tunnels, because those drawings literally show us the entire story of Fromland.
I'm Cooey. Remember.
This episode ended up putting a lot of things in perspective, because now we know why the boy in white was telling Tabitha that pushing her out was the only way. He was sending Tabitha out to find Victor's mom's paintings, hoping that by doing so, Tabitha would finally be able to remember her past lives and all of the memories that come with it. Because it's only by knowing all of that would she actually ever be able to complete the quest of freeing the children. And because we saw Fatima's baby turning into Smiley, the kimono demon obviously is not going to be helping anybody leave Fromville, and therefore Elgin, he definitely got played bad. But I will say that he did actually do very well, because it's only because of him that Smiley actually came back, so props to him for actually doing that. Fatima also said that the monsters who come out at nighttime were actually the original villagers who sacrificed their children in order to gain immortality. So this means that the monsters have always been the same group this entire time. And considering what we just saw with Smiley literally being born for at least the second time, it definitely means that even if you kill a monster, they can always be reborn in the future. And this actually plays into Jade saying in this episode that energy never really dies, it just transforms into something new. So I guess Smiley was always just up in the air somewhere after Boyd gunked him way back in season 2. But something else it also shows is that the entity actually does in fact respect the terms of whatever the arrangement was when you make a deal with him. Because remember, the entity is in fact honoring the promise to give these people immortality. And so this follows with what we saw when Boyd made that deal with the devil earlier to trade Randall in this same season. But it could also be foreshadowing of Victor himself making some sort of deal, and that may be why the monsters have never killed him in all these years. But we also gotta remember that we don't actually know if the villagers specifically wanted to be turned into these creatures. All we know is that they wanted immortality. So it could be the entity did give these people immortality, it just didn't happen in the way that they were expecting.
Why won't you help us?
I think you need to learn for yourselves. It's the only way you'll understand.
This episode actually cleared up a lot of ambiguity I had on the boy in white, because he's definitely a good guy, unless, of course, we get some major plot twists in the future. But for now, it looks like him saying stuff like you have to learn for yourselves was just him talking about them realizing the reincarnation cycle and how exactly they will be able to save the children. And because of Julie's story walker situation, we also know that they can't just go back in time to save the children, and all those moments where it seemed like the boy in white wanted to help in different situations but couldn't were probably because he was afraid of retaliation, more than likely from the man in yellow. But it's still ambiguous whether or not the man in yellow is actually the jellyfish entity or is just another one of his puppets. And based on this episode, it's actually very, very possible that bartender Tom, Father Cartry, and Abby have been the jellyfish this entire time, because now we know Tom was trying to gaslight Jade from investigating the bottle tree, and we saw the monsters completely stopped moving in front of Abby, and with Father Cartry, even in this episode, we saw him stalling Boyd so that Fatima would have enough time to give birth to Smiley. I also want to mention that Father Cartry wanting to watch as Boyd tortured Elgin could be because he wanted to have a front row seat to his plan of breaking Boyd finally coming to fruition, because even Sarah says that if Boyd went all the way while torturing Elgin, it would be the final proof of this place finally breaking Boyd. So Father Cartry wanting to watch as that was happening definitely makes a lot of sense if he was always the jellyfish this entire time, unless it was actually Smiley that was the jellyfish this entire time, which would be wild as hell. Another possibility is, of course, that it was actually the melody that freed the man in yellow or gave him power or whatever, because he did in fact say that Jade was playing the violin very beautifully. So maybe it is the man in yellow.
You and Eloise?
We were playing hide and seek because Eloise was good at hide and seek. You said Eloise.
I think so.
But one thing I have to say is that this episode was a massive disappointment for me in a lot of ways, because we still have no idea what caused Victor's massacre or how it happened, and the way they handled the situation with Victor's sister is absolutely pathetic. They really had Victor saying Eloise was good at hide and seek, which implied she might still be hiding somewhere in Fromland. And then in another episode, they had Victor saying his sister was dead, and then in this episode, Victor says he doesn't even know if this is his sister's grave or not. And this, oh man, this is just unacceptable. And them putting an entire 10 minutes plus of filler to advertise a completely different show at the end was absolute bullshit. And why exactly do the children say Ankui when it literally just means remember? What language is that supposed to be? We still have no idea who told the monsters that Boyd said this place could not break him, or how exactly they got that information. We still don't know how the monsters knew the ambulance would be coming into the town. We still don't know who that guy Jade saw pinned to a tree was supposed to be, and we still have absolutely no idea why Jade breaking the Scarecrow talismans was such a big deal. And what exactly was the point of having multiple characters hyping up that creature that was knocking at the cabins in multiple different episodes in this same season if you're not even gonna show it? Like, Jesus, man. What they did in this season would have been equivalent to them showing Boyd getting infected with the worms in season 2 episode 1, then showing that scene of him collapsing at the church, and then never explaining or mentioning the worms in any way for the rest of season 2. They completely ignored all the mysteries that they'd set up in the first half of this season specifically, and they switched up after like 6 episodes to focusing entirely on Fatima's pregnancy. And even then, they didn't even explain where, when, and how Fatima was impregnated with Smiley, and it makes even less sense when you remember that she was pregnant before Boyd killed Smiley. So what the hell is going on there? Instead of explaining all of that, what they did was give us the Man in Yellow, a character we've never seen even once and has never been mentioned in any way in any episode in the entire show, with the only thing referencing him being a painting that appears in this very same season. And we don't even know if the voice pretending to be the dead baby was also the Man in Yellow or just a completely different entity. Like the boy in white didn't even make an appearance when he's been in every season's final episode ever since the show began. I care infinitely more about this boy and knowing about his goals, struggles, and role in the story than I do about the Man in Yellow, because the boy's been in the show literally since the second episode. I am not happy. In fact, I'm actually angry. What was the point of hyping up Kenny wanting to burn the monsters while they're sleeping in the caves if he wasn't even going to try to do it? And for God's sake, why did they have Boyd saying he wanted to catch one of the monsters just to completely ignore that plot point in every single episode afterwards? Where is Victor's sister? And if she's dead, then why would they have Victor saying he doesn't even know if that's her grave or not? The way the second half of this season played out is absolutely pathetic, and it shows an insane amount of disrespect towards your own viewers, and placing that gigantic 10-minute plus advertisement at the end that's for a completely different show was a massive slap in the face by the producers of this show. Like, it's not that hard, man. Just stop hyping up things that you have no intention of progressing in the season. It's that simple. This yellow clown-ass looking bum really came up in here like he's the king of everything. I would genuinely pay money just to see the Teen in White whooping his ass out in the forest. I would never vote for anybody except the Teen in White, so fuck this bum for bullying my boy and making him live in fear. You just wait and see. You just wait and see. Boyd's gonna punk your demonic yellow ass just like he did to your boy Smiley. Just wait and see, you demonic motherfucker. Teen in White for the win. Woo!